Hey friends, in writing today we are going to use superlatives and comparatives in our writing by awarding a classmate a kind certificate. Okay, there are 3 degrees in comparison. The positive degree refers to one thing, so the B is small. We're only referring to the B. But a comparative degree is when we compare two things. The bee is smaller than the butterfly. So we have to know how big the butterfly is and how big the bee is. Okay. And then superlative is when we compare more than two things, right? It's super. So we are figuring out which is the most, which is super, right? We're comparing 3 or more things. So we might describe best or most. The bee is smaller than the butterfly, but the ladybug is the smallest. So smallest would be our superlative comparison. So a positive degree gives us information, right? It can be pretty, green, smelly, frog, or small. These positive degrees tell us about the frog. But comparative, like we said, is when we use two things. So the bee is smaller than the bird. And then another comparative is the butterfly is prettier than a worm. You might notice that these both have the ER at the end. Once again, superlative is when we compare 2 or more. So in this example, we have 3 things. And we can see that the ladybug is cuter than the fly. That's our comparative. But the grasshopper is cutest, superlative, of them all. Another superlative example is the worm is faster than the snail. That's your comparative. But the spider is fastest, superlative, of them all. So here are some rules for comparatives and superlatives. Rule number 1 is that adding an R or an ST to the words that end in E. Okay, so we have safe ends in an E. So to make a comparative, to compare it to one other thing, we add an R to the end. Safe becomes safer. But to do a superlative, to compare it to more than one thing, we add ST to the end. Safe is safest. Wide becomes wider and widest. And, tame becomes tamer and tamest. Okay, here are some degrees of comparison. We have large is the positive degree, larger is our comparative degree, and largest is the superlative. Rule number 2 is if the word ends in Y, we change the Y to I and then add ER or EST. So tidy becomes tidier. We put an I right there. And then we keep the I here to add EST, tidiest. Happy, happier, happiest. And then lucky, luckier, luckiest. You'll notice the I. We change the Y to I and add ER or EST. Some more examples are heavy, heavier, and heaviest. Rule number 3 is when the word has a short sound, the last letter must be doubled when adding ER or EST. So we're going to double the G to make big become bigger or biggest. Hot, double the T, becomes hotter or hottest. And sad, double the D, becomes sadder or saddest. Another example is big, bigger, and biggest. Rule number 4 is when the word has one syllable and ends on 2 consonants, add ER or ES or EST. Smart becomes smarter and then smartest. Black becomes blacker or blackest. Cold becomes colder and coldest. Another example is young, younger, and youngest.